We will be joined by Sarah. Sarah is our field advisor based at Singapore. Sarah is passionate about gender equality, education, and empowerment of underprivileged children. Sarah Curavilla brings a wealth of cross-functional experience from social enterprises, NGOs, and tech startups. She has had previous experience as a chief operating officer of the Funding Network in Australia, a director of business operations for a Silicon Valley high-tech company, as well as DevEx, a global social enterprise in Washington, D.C. Sarah, please go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. I'm really excited to be able to share some comparisons of the countries you've just heard from and give you a different perspective of what's happening in Singapore, which is essentially facing the same issue with a very rapidly aging society. But the manner in which the government is addressing the issue is really interesting to follow and to see how they actually cope in the years to come. So if we can go to that, if we look at the slide here, I'm hoping to draw some comparisons of Singapore to maybe cities you're familiar with. So in terms of population, Singapore is really small still. It is an island state, as it's called. So it's an island, it's a city, and it's a country all together in one. Really small in geographical size. It's only 279 square miles long or wide and big, which makes it makes it really small, 179th smallest country in the world. In terms of population, only 5.79 million people live here, which is about half the population of just New York City alone, all the boroughs combined. And in terms of geographical size, it's about half the size of Los Angeles. So that might give you an idea of this tiny little nation nestled in Southeast Asia, surrounded by countries that are struggling on many development fronts. And Singapore, by comparison, has actually overcome a lot of those with a really efficient government, with really smart policies. And I just want to share a few insights about that. So how did Singapore become such a well-planned and efficient, safe country? It actually, all credit goes to Lee Kuan Yew, who is the father of the nation considered here, who really transformed Singapore in one generation during his leadership, from going from a developing country status to a developed country. And he did that by coming up with really strong social policies focused on education, enforcing contribution by the citizens towards retirement, as well as enforcing contribution towards public housing. So what you'd see is a lot of Singaporeans, irrespective of their wealth, are very well housed. About 81% of them are living in these public houses, and out of that 81%, 79% of the population owns these houses. Only 2% are renting them. That's a really high statistic and a really well thought out plan that takes care of its people in the long run. If we just look at that slide, a few other important things to note about Singapore is that it's a really diverse nation mixed with people from a few different nations that have made Singapore their home. So you would see, if you visit Singapore, you see people from Malaysia, India, and China, who are all local Singaporeans. And this diversity is really nice. They're intermingled. We celebrate all the holidays that fall under these nations. So we celebrate the Indian holidays, the Malay holidays, the Chinese holidays, all in a big way. And that's encouraging for everyone to learn about different cultures and see how people get along. In terms of religions, again, we have a really diverse set of religions coming from all these different countries. And what I think the crux of this conversation will be about now is getting into the population as well as the challenges that Singapore is experiencing. Now, while it's really well planned for its future, there is a really scary statistic, which is the population is rapidly aging and the entire country is shifting towards a senior population, which brings the burden on to the working class pretty significantly in the years to come. In terms of poverty, it's really hard to get to see in Singapore. A lot of times it's hidden. We don't really see anyone that's homeless. You don't really see anyone that's not looking like they're well-to-do, but it does exist. It's about 10 to 14% living in severe poverty, and it's really that population that's neglected that needs to be addressed a little bit further. If we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So in this slide, you get a sense of what, on the left, there's a graph that just shows you the male and female population in terms of their age over time. So the first graph on the top is in 1980, it looked pretty bottom heavy. So there's a lot of young people in the population, but as we go to 2015, you can see it's, you know, the majority of the population has moved already towards being elderly. And by 2050 is where it gets really scary because as of now, about an eighth of the population is considered a senior citizen. By 2030, it'll be 1 in 4, which is a quarter of the population will be senior citizens. But by 2050, that's over half our population is going to be in that category. So that's a really big part of society that really needs to be taken care of. If you look on the right, this is some images that are quite disturbing to see. This is, you know, a snapshot of different elderly people in Singapore, but it's actually quite a common sight. They do really hard manual labor, and this is quite heartbreaking when you think about, you know, they've had a long life to get to this age and they're living healthily, they're able to get around and walk around and carry heavy things, but at the same time, to earn a minimum wage or to earn a small wage, this is the kind of work that they're carrying out, which really makes you feel like you want to do something more to contribute towards fixing this problem. If you can go to the next slide, please. This is an infographic that just kind of gets a little bit further into you know, what's really happening in Singapore in terms of this issue of aging. Our median age in 2015 was already over 40 years of age for the population, as we just saw on that graph. And by 2030, it's moving towards 44. And by 2050, it's going to be a lot more. So, you know, we've definitely got an issue to deal with. What's Singapore doing about it is actually very, very interesting. So the government has taken a really active role in addressing this issue, and it's not something they want to look at as a problem. They actually look at it as an opportunity. They look at it as, you know, really wanting to include their elderly into everyday life, and they've come up with numerous programs that allow for the elderly population to be integrated with, you know, intergenerational mixes, a lot of programs for educating them, to retrain them with skills so that they can continue to work if they are able to physically. And that's really, really encouraging. So if you look at our life expectancy rates right now, it's about 82.8 years and projected to go up to 89.3 in the years to come. And while that's really great and the healthcare system is wonderful and people are getting, you know, good healthcare, able to live long lives, the focus comes to the population that needs to support this group, and that's where there is a problem as well. The fertility rates are really low; it's only 1.2%, and as we go into the future, that pressure on the working class just gets deeper and deeper and heavier. And it's called the sandwich population that's going to have to take care of the elderly people as well as young children, which the government is trying to encourage, but you know, that number is shrinking in the middle. So the few things the government is trying to do is to look at aging as an opportunity, and also to come up as a model, as a caring and inclusive societies for seniors to be an integral part of it. They call themselves, they have a little motto now, Singapore's called the City of All Ages, that you will see in, you know, if for people in this industry, they consider that as a city of all ages, then they want to project themselves as a model for the rest of the world, like I said. And interesting things they do about that is building communities where elderly population, mixes with really young youth and as well as young children. So they've been renovating a lot of centers around here where traditional old age homes have now been transformed into old age homes plus daycare centers. So you see young children as well as the elderly, and it's actually a win-win for both the populations because the young children get a chance to bond with grandparently, individuals and vice versa. The grandparents love to hang out with, or grandparent generation loves to hang out with young children and just gives them that vitality they need. Next slide, please. I think that's actually it for me. So I look forward to answering any questions at the end if you have about Singapore. And there's a number of organizations focused on this effort to allow society to age gracefully and confidently. And we would be happy to recommend organizations if you're interested in partnering with. Overall, there still is a gap between what the government is trying to do and where we are now. So there's always a need for international organizations to get involved with, and also social enterprises and innovation really to come in and solve some of these social issues. Thank you so much. That's all I have for now.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Sarah, for that snapshot in Singapore. And it's interesting to see the innovative ways that the government and the society and the social sector is trying to address this emerging issue in Singapore.